evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?
Welcome to the channel, and it is go time for MLB the Show. Today for me is opening day, so it's Thursday the 7th, and so I'm super pumped. I finally got the updated live rosters, which I actually had to make a couple of changes to those rosters. Now, you see here we are sitting on the Tigers for our team that we have selected. And I've actually done a Tigers franchise previously, and I really had to kind of think long and hard about who I wanted to do this year's franchise with. And there were a lot of teams that were kind of in consideration. We did the Orioles last year, and that one actually went pretty well, where the team had success a lot faster than I thought they would, even though it was sort of a rebuild scenario. Um, so anyway, that was what was going on there. So I wanted to get out of the AL East. I really wasn't thinking about doing the Tigers until I looked at some of the other options around the league. I considered the A's. I considered the Mariners. Um, I actually thought about maybe trying the Reds or Pirates, but both of those teams are now so atrocious that the game would not even be fun. Like, neither of these teams even really have players to get excited about right now. So we passed on those. And then if I go to the AL West, it's like, which team do you pick? And you know that you've got to compete with the freaking Dodgers for the foreseeable future, and I just didn't want to deal with that. And then I got to thinking about, like, why don't we do the Tigers? They actually have some things to get excited about, and I'll show you those here in a second. But first, we're going to go ahead and advance, and we'll talk about some things that we will have going on in the franchise as far as settings, and that sort of thing. But the only thing that I'm actually going to change here when going in to start the franchise is I'm going to turn GM contracts off. I don't think they really are relevant anyway, but just in case we happen to have a down year to start things off, I don't want to get into a scenario where we have issues on that front. So everything is going to be manual as far as scouting, roster moves, etc. We're going to start in spring training. Now, the first thing that I actually want to do here, first, let's delete the stupid mail notifications. And now I want to go in and take a look at the roster. So this is a team that looks a lot different than it did last year. Javi Baez, obviously the big acquisition, adds a really good bat, a very good defender. He's got good speed. He's just a really good all-around player. There's not a whole lot that this guy doesn't do well. His arm is not as accurate as I would hope, but the guy's going to be a really good defender, bottom line, and he can swing the bat. I mean, the only outlier here is the shortened season in 2020, but every other year he's hit for a decent average and pretty good pop, considering that he's playing that premium position at shortstop. So there's that. Jonathan Scope is the other guy up the middle. Actually, let's go position by position and kind of do it this way. So in the rotation, we've got to sort of make a decision on what we want to do at the major league level. So you've got Eduardo Rodriguez, Spencer Turnbull, who I think might actually be hurt in real life, but I'm not sure, and then Michael Pineda as the three guys that, like, for sure get in the rotation based on their experience. Casey Mize is definitely ready. He actually pitched okay for stretches last year. You can see here 150 innings and a 3.71 ERA is really respectable for a 23-year-old. And the whip is what's impressive here. 1.14 is pretty good at the major league level. So he's going to be in the rotation for sure, and he's going to be a stud for us for a long time. Chase Anderson is a depth guy that we can call up if we have injury trouble or whatever, but I don't expect to see him on the major league roster this year. Then you've got Tarik Skubal and Matt Manning, and it's like, how do I get them into the rotation when we already have four guys that are they have solidified that spot? I think Skubal will get the nod because he actually was in the rotation last year. See, about 150 innings as well. He wasn't quite as sharp as Casey Mize, but that was sort of to be expected. The guy can strike out hitters. Like, that's what he's known for. He's got a really good fastball. I'm excited about him. We need to see that whip come down a little bit in the ERA as well. But he's only 25, got that A potential. He's going to be really good. And then Matt Manning is only 24, B potential. He probably needs a little bit more time to develop. I think, yeah, he got a little bit of action last year, but was not very good at the major league level. So he's not quite rotation ready anyway, so that kind of makes the decision to go with Skubal a little bit easier. And then Joey Wentz is interesting because he's pretty much, like, according to the numbers, as good as Manning or Skubal, but the D potential, it just doesn't leave a lot of upside for this guy. So I think the perfect thing to do with a guy like this is just leave him in the bullpen as a long relief option. Jackson Jobe was the 3rd overall pick in the draft, 19 years old. I'm like, why, MLB The Show, do you leave this guy with B potential? If they're a early first rounder, just give him A potential, for crying out loud. But anyway, the guy's got a good fastball, good slider, really good slider. But obviously at 19 years old, we can let him develop at the minor league level for a little bit before we bring him up. But he is going to be pretty good pretty soon. Willie Peralta, not a whole lot of other options down here that are noteworthy, with maybe the exception of Ty Madden. I think he was like a 3rd-round pick in 2020, maybe. He's a 61 overall, which is, far from major league ready, but he's only 22 and he's got B potential. So he's a guy that we might be seeing in the rotation in a couple of years. Our bullpen is just really not that good. Andrew Chafin, where was he? Okay, he bounced around a little bit last year, but he's been with the the guy's been in the league for a while. Excuse me. Mostly in Arizona, went to Chicago and was not very good. I don't know where he spent last year, but 68 innings and a 1.83 ERA. The guy can pitch, and if we get a year like that out of him, he's probably going to end up being our closer, and we'll talk more about that in a second. So he's our stud lefty. Then you've got Cisnero and Jimenez that are decent right-handed options, but really not that good. Tyler Alexander will probably be a long relief guy as well, left-handed. So our long relief, unfortunately, you've got Joey Wentz, who is also left-handed. I wish I had a long relief guy that was righty that wasn't named Matt Manning, because I don't want him sitting in the bullpen doing nothing. Like, I'd rather him be at AAA getting getting some starts and getting some good innings instead of coming into games in situations where the game's already, like, out of control and we just need to eat some innings. So anyway, we'll figure that out. Jacob Barnes, a depth guy. Michael Fulmer, so frustrating that this guy's got, like, the stuff that he has, but he just can't get guys out. He's just, like, last year he was good, but, like, the 2.97 ERA is a little bit misleading when you look at that 1.28 whip, and he really hasn't had a solid whip since 2017, and then I think this is the year that he was injured, or whatever. So he hasn't been who they thought he was going to be when he came up in 2016. Like, this guy, we thought he was going to be the anchor in this rotation, and it just never panned out. So he could be a long relief guy, but they have him listed with 35 stamina, so that doesn't help. Funkhauser, maybe, and then Alex Lang. He's got wicked breaking stuff, but 62 overall, I don't have a lot of use for you, except, like, go out there and eat an inning and hopefully don't give up 7 runs. And then Gregory Soto as the closer, I don't see this working out. His walks per 9 is trash, and in MLB The Show, that definitely makes a difference. So I think Soto will move to, like, a setup role or even middle relief, and Chafin will become the closer. We'll probably let Soto have that spot early in the season and just see how it goes. If he pitches well, he keeps that job. But if he doesn't, it is definitely a short leash for him. All right, behind the dish, Tucker Barnhart came over from the Reds. This is a guy that is a very good defender, a decent hitter against right-handed pitching, but can't hit lefties. As with most catchers, he can't run, and he's 31 years old, and we only have him for 1 year. So I'm not sure what's going to shake loose with Tucker Barnhart. If he has a good year this year, we'll probably try and re-sign him and keep him around. But he is definitely going to platoon with Eric Home Run Haas. This guy has crazy power, especially against lefties. He's not that great against right-handed pitching, but the dude can mash. So, like, I want to try and absolutely get him in the lineup when we're playing lefties. There's no question about that. And then Jake Roberts, a depth guy, we'll see what he turns into. Now, we do have a couple other catchers in the system. Alfonso, I think, was a high draft pick a few years ago. C potential is not the greatest, but he's a pretty good defender, and he's got decent contact ratings right now. He needs to develop a little bit of power, but he could be an option for us as like a platoon guy in a year or two. And then Dylan Dingler, another young guy, pretty balanced, but he's not like good at anything, but he's okay at a lot of stuff. And 23 with a B potential, he could turn into a decent player in a few years as well, so keep an eye out for his name. Now, at first base, let's actually start with Cabrera. He's 38. He still has 2 years left on his contract. There is zero chance he is a Tiger after the 2023 season, and I'm really kind of wanting him to retire after this season because he's just not the same Miguel Cabrera he used to be. Now, he's not terrible. He can still hit lefties, but he doesn't have the power that he used to. So, like, with him, we're just kind of hoping that he can go out and hit in, like, the 260s with, 10 to 20 homers this year. Now, he needs 13 hits to get to 3,000. He got to the 500 homer plateau last year, which is kind of interesting. He needed 13 home runs last year going into the season to get to that milestone, and now he needs 13 hits to get to that milestone. So also 3 doubles to get to 600, but that's not a big one. But anyway, obviously a Hall of Fame career. He just needs to like kind of wrap it up at this point, but he can't run at all. He's not even really that solid as a defender anymore just because he can't move. So I really, really hope that he retires at the end of this season, but I don't think it'll happen. But all that it's really doing is clogging up a spot where Corkelson could play DH if we don't want to have him in the field because Corkelson's just not a great defender right now. So I need him to get better. He's not the slowest person on the field, and the guy will probably end up having pretty good pop. Definitely home run potential in the 30s to 40s, maybe more if he really comes along. But the guy can hit, and he's only 22, and definitely looked at as one of the top prospects in all of baseball right now as far as his ability to square up a baseball. So the guy is going to be good, and he's going to play pretty much every day for us this year. Couple things that I will note. Like, at catcher, we're going to platoon. At first base, it's going to be Corkelson, who is better against lefties than he is against righties. Cabrera will DH. He's also better against lefties than he is against righties. We move to second base. It's Jonathan Schoop. Better against lefties than he is against righties. He's probably our everyday second baseman. Willie Castro. The guy can play a bunch of different positions, but he doesn't hit right-handed pitching very well. He's better against lefties. He's got speed, and he can play defense. We will use Willie Castro a lot because of his flexibility as far as the positions he can play. But I don't really want him in the lineup against right-handed pitching, which is frustrating because he's a switch hitter. How can you suck that bad from one side of the plate? But anyway, then you've got Candelario, also better against lefties. This is a guy that a couple of years ago, it was like, oh my God, we can't get him off this roster fast enough. But he turned it around in the shortened season and had a really good year. And then last year, these numbers are solid. He hit 271, only 16 home runs. So I'd like to see the power come along a little bit. He's in his contract year, though, so we have to kind of decide what we're going to do with him. And a lot of it is going to depend on how he plays this season. But again, another guy that's better against lefties than he is against righties. Same with Javi Baez. Now, Baez is okay against righties as well, but he's definitely better against left-handed pitching. The only other guy I'll talk about at shortstop is Harold Castro. He is the exception to the rule for us. He can hit right-handed pitching. He has no power, but he's definitely got good contact, and the guy can get on base, and he can play a bunch of different positions. So we will get some use out of him, especially on those days where we want to give a guy a day off and they can't hit right-handed pitching anyway. It's a really good excuse to get Harold Castro into the lineup, and he can play any position other than catcher. So he's a huge asset, even though he's not the greatest player as far as his overall. The guy will hit about 300. He won't hit for any power, but we can use him, and it's not a liability at the plate. He's a little bit of a liability in the field as far as his overalls, but the fact that he can play every position, we're going to use him. We just acquired Austin Meadows, so we gave up Isaac Paredes, a third baseman, who really wasn't much of an asset anyway, and then I think they gave away a competitive balance pick or something. But the bottom line is this is a huge score for the Tigers. He is another guy like Castro that actually hits righties better than he does lefties. He'll be really good for us in the heart of that lineup pretty much every day. I don't like that he can't hit lefties very well, but the guy has some pretty good pop. I thought he had better speed than that, but that's okay. And he's a solid defender. So the fact that he's only 26 and he's got that A potential, he will continue to improve for a couple more years. So that's a huge acquisition for the Tigers, and they needed help on offense in the outfield, especially against right-handed pitching. So that's a big score. Now, Akil Badu, another guy, he's a left-handed hitter, doesn't hit left-handed pitching, but he's got pretty good pop against righties, and this guy is just fun to watch. He's got good speed. Really, really kind of sparked this team last year when he came up and was immediately he's just one of those guys that when he's in the lineup, the games are a little bit more fun to watch. The average isn't the greatest, but like I said, he's got some speed, he's got a little bit of pop, and he's just, he's there's something about him that he's just, he's a spark plug. So in center field, Riley Green, or Derek Hill we'll start with. We'll get to Riley Green in a second. Derek Hill, 26 years old, deep potential. So, there's no upside with this guy. He doesn't hit right-handed pitching very well. He's okay against lefties. He's a good defender, and he's got elite speed. But he's probably a guy that I don't want in the lineup very often. Except for when we're playing lefties, we probably have to figure out a way to maybe use him every now and then. But Victor Reyes is the better option out of these two. He's definitely the better hitter against both lefties and righties. And he's a pretty solid defender, and he's also got pretty good speed. So, this is my guy. He's a switch hitter, which I like. He's got really good contact against left-handed pitching. Not a lot of pop, but that's okay. He's a solid player. And then Riley Green could easily end up on the Major League roster this season because we might need somebody at the Major League level that can hit right-handed pitching. Robbie Grossman isn't really everyday material because he doesn't hit righties all that well. And if he is struggling and Riley Green is swinging the bat well, it's extremely likely that we see Derek Hill go down to AAA, Riley Green come up and start playing against right-handed pitching because he's got decent ratings against righties. Even against lefties, those aren't atrocious, and he's a solid defender. I wish he had more speed, but 21 years old, a potential. I think he is actually hurt in real life, but we're getting the benefit of the old video game here to where he's going to be live and ready to go on opening day. Daz Cameron, the only other one on the roster as far as on the 40-man, but he's just not very good. That Robbie Grossman is the only right fielder that we've got on the 40-man roster. He's a solid baseball player, but he's not like great at anything. He hits lefties better than he does righties. He's not the worst against right-handed pitching, but this is never going to be a guy that's going to hit 290 with 25 home runs. He's just a average Major League Baseball player in pretty much every aspect. Like, you look at his career numbers, he did hit for some pop last year, but the average dipped versus like what's kind of like typical for him. But he's been all over the place statistically. So he's one of those guys that I don't know if he's just streaky or what the deal is, or if he dealt with injuries at times. But the bottom line is, I don't really expect great things out of him this year. I didn't realize he stole 20 bases last year, so he's got pretty good, speed for a guy that you don't necessarily think of as a stolen base threat. So that's a look at the roster. I think there are pieces on this team that give us reasons to be excited. Riley Green is going to be a pretty good Major League outfielder. We've got Austin Meadows now, who should be solid for the next several years. In fact, what's his contract? So he's up for arbitration for 2 more years after this year. So we can control him for a couple of years. That's good. Akil Badu is fun to watch. Javi Baez is 29, and we have him for 6 years. So I don't even know how good he's going to be by the time he's 35 or whatever, but $23 million a year is not that bad, and he's going to be a solid defender across that stretch. So I'm not real worried about that contract, frankly. Candelario is 28, and again, he's in a contract year, so we need to decide what to do there. Scope is getting up there in age. So, we've got some aging veterans that are going to help this team right now, but then you've got guys like Riley Green. Spencer Torkelson is going to be a stud, and the fact that he is only 22, about to play his first Major League game, is super exciting. We are going to have to maybe figure out if Alfonso or Dingler are our catchers of the future, or if we go and try and find somebody in free agency or whatever, because these guys are starting to get up there in age. We need bullpen help. I don't think there's any question about that. But then, as far as the rotation goes, we're good now, and we've got Casey Mize, Tarik Skubal, Matt Manning, Jackson Jobe, all right there, either Major League ready or almost Major League ready. This team is going to be loaded with arms. And then you even have Ty Madden that give him 3 or 4 years to develop, and he could be a really good Major League pitcher. So the team is going to be good. We're going to be competitive this year. I do worry about our ability to hit right-handed pitching as a whole, but this team is going to be really good against left-handed pitching. And if our bullpen is just consistent, they don't have to be great, but as long as they're not going out there and blowing a 3-run lead twice a week or whatever, then we'll be okay. They just need to be okay. They don't need to be great, but they can't be the reason we lose on a regular basis, or this team's in trouble. Because I don't think we have the bats to make up for, late inning disasters from the bullpen. All right, so we've looked at the roster. I'll deal with lineups and the pitching rotation, etc. shortly. Just to kind of look at what's out there in free agency, let's at least take a look at this list. There's not a lot of standout names. Now, Trevor Rosenthal, I don't even think he's been... Yeah, I mean, he did pitch in 2020, but he didn't pitch at all last year in the majors. And then, but I mean, in the games that he did pitch, he was really good. And I know that he's had injury trouble to where Like, it's interesting that he's still sitting out there as a free agent, and I wonder if it's because he still has injury issues. You got Conforto. It's amazing he's not on a roster right now, and he might already be, and I like the latest roster update didn't even, have it have that in there because like Austin Meadows with the latest live roster was still on the Rays, so I had to actually execute that trade. Um, but there's like there are not a ton of options out here that I could see us going and getting. Maybe somebody like John Curtis, just because he's only 28 and he's just a solid relief pitcher. Um, he's been pretty good the last few seasons overall. Like, at 44 innings with a 3.45 ERA is pretty respectable. So this is a guy that maybe we could use, but we're not going to do any moves like that until we get into the season and see how things are going. So anyway, there's no like huge names out here that stand out as like, oh man, I wonder where he's going to land. But there are some pieces here that we might be able to use if we get into injury trouble or whatever as the season unfolds. And then what else do we want to look at? Oh, so settings. We are going to be on Hall of Fame difficulty for hitting. And then, where is, oh, here we go. Legend difficulty for pitching. I think we did Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame in my last franchise. And what I ended up finding out was that basically pitching was too consistent when playing on Hall of Fame. Like, we never had games where we got beat like 12 nothing or 12-3 or whatever. Like, a bad day pitching for us was like 6 or 7 runs, and those didn't even happen very often. We had a lot of games where we would pitch a shutout or give up 1 or 2 runs, and I think that that's maybe a little bit unrealistic. Now, the reality though is I'm not going to play every game, so like when we play, I want to win or at least be competitive. But every once in a while, if we just get shellacked, that's sometimes that happens. We just need to be prepared to kind of deal with that. Plus, it makes it to where we don't go out and win the World Series in our first season because like every time I play, we win 7-0. So I will adjust the sliders a little bit, but I kind of have to figure that out as I go as to where we want the sliders. I like to. I will just say in general, I like to turn human pitching control and consistency up. So that like there's already an element of like human error when using the pitch meter. So it's stupid in my opinion if like I get a perfect release but my pitcher misses his location. Like, what the hell's the point of me trying to hit the meter dead on if when I do it doesn't even, give me a guaranteed, well executed pitch. So I do make that adjustment, and we'll make a few others to try and make the game a little bit more playable, but that's the big one that I will note. So anyway, I'll deal with those off screen. The general expectation as far as like presentation is we are going to play, like, we'll play the first game of the season. Like, if I look at the calendar, so we would play this game against Washington. Eduardo Rodriguez would be on the hill. Okay, then our next game is Spencer Turnbull. Then you've got Pineda. Then you have Mize and Skubal. This game where Rodriguez would be due to pitch again is the last game that we would simulate, and then we would do the next game and play where it's Spencer Turnbull's time in the rotation. Then we would skip an entire time through the rotation and play the game where Pineda is the starter. That way, every game we get to watch, there's a new pitcher on the hill. Now, there are maybe some times where we'll actually skip twice through the rotation, or like skip Pineda's start and go to Casey Mize because we just played the Phillies, and I'm not going to show you another game against the Phillies as the next presentation. If I can go one day farther and we play the Orioles instead, that's what we're going to do. So anyway, bottom line is we'll play pretty much one game every time through the rotation with a different pitcher on the hill. And then all of what I show you is basically going to be like highlight reel style. So if you've seen any of my franchises in the past, you have an idea of exactly what I'm talking about. We're not going to show you the entire game. I'm going to play the game, go back and edit out all of the downtime and plays that just aren't that impactful in the overall scheme of things. Create one edited highlight reel of the game basically, and then put commentary to it and post it on YouTube. So anyway, that's what we've got going on there. I really think that the Tigers are a team that do present well as far as not necessarily a rebuild, but a team that definitely has some missing pieces, but can be competitive. Like a lot of people have the Tigers picked to finish second in the AL Central this year, and I would not be shocked if that's exactly where we end up, or a little bit lower in the standings. But if everything happens to go well, we get out of the gates hot, and then all of a sudden we manage to go get a piece to help the bullpen down the stretch. This could be a team that sneaks into a division win in the regular season. So, but then, like at the end of this season, we got some decisions to make as far as who to keep, who to let go, and there's going to be a lot going on there in the post Miguel Cabrera era. But we've got lots of pitching to get excited about for the future, and a couple of guys on offense that definitely appear to have some upside as well. So, how are we doing on time? I think we're good. So I think what we will do is go ahead and try and get the first game of the regular season in to kind of wrap up this first episode. So stand by. We'll get through spring training. Actually, no, we won't have a game in this episode, but what I will do is sim through spring training, get all of the rosters figured out as far as who's going to be on the opening day rotation, who's going to be in the lineup, etc. So let me get all of that worked out, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we've simmed through spring training, and I just want to kind of go over some notes about how guys performed through the spring, and then ultimately kind of what that means for our overall plans for a lineup to start things off in the regular season. So Akil Badu swung the bat very well. Victor Reyes was struggling. I actually pulled him out of the lineup and dropped Robbie Grossman in for a while to try and get him some at-bats and see if he could basically like hit his way into the lineup against right-handed pitching, but he did not exactly thrive either. So what I did was I moved Badu up to the leadoff spot. We're going to drop Reyes into the 2-hole in this hope that he gets it together as the regular season gets going. Javi Baez was just like okay. Austin Meadows was not very good, but he's gonna have to be the starter in left field, especially against right-handed pitching and pretty much every day. Corkelson was an absolute monster, hitting .337 with 7 home runs. Holy crap, look out. And he's already up to a 75 overall. He was a 74 to start the spring. Miguel Cabrera actually swung the bat well, hit .293 with 3 home runs. So I liked what we got out of him. Jonathan Schoop was atrocious, but he's going to be our everyday second baseman. Candelario was about what we would have expected for him to do throughout the entire season. Probably hit somewhere in the 260s or 270s with decent power. Tucker Barnhart was really bad. He's going to have to be our catcher when we're facing right-handed pitching. He's got a great glove, so we can look past his hitting, but he's going to have to do better than 153. So, and then as far as our bench guys, we looked at Grossman. He did not do much. Eric Haas swung the bat pretty well. Just 1 home run, but he only batted 37 times. So he's going to be the starter against left-handed pitching. And he's got a strong arm. He's just not the greatest defensive catcher outside of that. Willie Castro was surprisingly bad. 44 at bats, and he only hit 182 with no pop. So that's a little bit of a concern. And then Harold Castro really swung the bat well, hit 343, only 35 at bats, and again, no power, but I just need him to get on base. You go out there and hit me a bunch of singles, and I'm totally cool with that. Derek Hill, just 26 at bats, was not very good. Zach Short barely got into the games. Same with Clemens. Like, I don't even really consider these guys major league options. So not really concerned with how they're swinging the bat. And just limited reps anyway. Now, Jake Rogers is maybe the one exception there. I'm glad that he got a few at bats because we might leverage him instead of Tucker Barnhart. If Barnhart can't swing the bat, I don't want him in the lineup. So I would give Jake Rogers a chance. Rogers is one of those guys that's just decent at everything. So he's got potential to be on this major league roster. I don't expect him to go out there and hit 300 with a bunch of pop, but if he can go out there and hit in the mid 200s with an occasional home run here and there and play decent defense behind the dish, which he can do, then we have a use for him. And he's only 26, so he's a guy that's probably going to be a piece of this organization for a while. On the hill, this is where things are a little scary here. We went 12-18 in spring training, by the way, so not very impressive. Eduardo Rodriguez was awful. Spencer Turnbull started off rough, and then over his last few outings pitched really well. So all in all, I like what we got out of him. Pineda was terrible early. I actually gave Manning a shot for a couple of starts, and he didn't exactly thrive, so I threw Pineda back in there, and he pitched better in his last start. But still, I'm a little bit concerned with him. He's had injury trouble anyway, and I'm kind of anxious to see how he fares. Honestly, Rodriguez, I don't understand how this guy is an 80 overall, because when you look at his stats, he's not a very good pitcher. He's never had a whip below 1.26. And his ERA is always in the high threes to, somewhere in the fours. And not only that, it's not even like he's going out there and eating up a ton of innings. He had 1 year here where he was pretty good. He wins 19 games, throws 203 innings, and had a solid ERA, but that whip is a little bit of a concern. And so the ERA is misleading at that point. So anyway, we'll have to see what we get out of him, but calling him our clear ace is an absolute stretch. Casey Mize was not very good. Now the whip isn't awful, but the ERA of 6, you're going to have to be better than that, my man. Skubal was just decent the entire spring. So, and that's kind of what I expect out of him. He might show some flashes because he can strike guys out and he's got good velocity, but he's also going to have his struggles to where he's never going to be, at least not this season, a guy that's got a whip down around 1 and a sub 3 ERA or whatever. We're just not going to get that out of him. Now Manning, I think, is going to end up in AAA to start the spring. I gave him a shot, and he did not take advantage. So that's basically what we're dealing with there. Wentz was really bad. Garcia never even threw a pitch. Tyler Alexander was outstanding, which is great because I need a middle relief guy, especially a lefty, and he definitely stepped up. Cisnero was just okay, but that whip is not very good. Fulmer was terrible. Kyle Funkhauser was really good, but it's only 11 innings. This guy throws really hard, but that's all he can do. I don't see us using him that much unless we have injury trouble and just need somebody at the major league level. Chafin was awesome. Now, they actually, when I just, went into the bullpen or whatever, they actually had him set as the closer. I moved him to the setup role to give Soto this opportunity, and we'll get to him here in a second, but let's first talk about Joe Jimenez. Only 5 1/3 of work, so none of these guys got a ton of work, but these two were really good, and Gregory Soto was really bad. He pitched 7 innings. I wish I could see the stats for the spring alone, because I wonder how many like blown saves he had in those opportunities. Can I see that like in stats maybe? Or yes, we can. So let's go to pitchers, and now Gregory Soto. He got a loss and 6 saves in his 7 innings worked. I don't like 5 walks in 7 innings. And that's part of the reason why his whip is atrocious. He actually pitched in 8 games. Just 1 blown save. So, like, the ERA and the whip, obviously not very good, but it's not like, again, there was 1 game where he was the reason that we lost. But like, we're going to give him that spot to start the season, but it is a very, very short leash. So that's the plan there. All right, let's go ahead now and jump forward to the regular season. We start on the road against Seattle. What's the notification here? Doesn't matter. Wait, cripes. Let's get rid of these. Bother me. I don't like having stuff in my inbox or whatever. And I'm the same way like at work. All right. So we start against Seattle on the road. So we will get a look at that game. And then the next one that we will show is going to be, I guess, it might be this one or this one. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will skip and then play this one, I believe. So let's get ready and head on out to Seattle, take on the Mariners on opening day of the 2022 season. And here we are in T-Mobile Park out in Seattle, Washington, where it's the Mariners and the Tigers. Opening day, obviously you want to get off to a great start and pick up a win and get into first place right out of the gates. But the Tigers are going to have their hands full in this one with a very good left-handed starter in Robbie Ray. Eduardo Rodriguez going for the Tigers, but here look at the numbers for Ray last year. It's 13-7, but a 1.04 whip and racking up nearly 250 strikeouts. This is a very good, hard-throwing lefty. First batter of the game is Victor Reyes, and that's just a simple comeback from there. Sends it over to first for the first out. Now we'll look at A.J. Hinch's squad here. The lefty on the hill, it's going to be Reyes, Grossman, Cabrera at first. Then Baez, Scope, and Corkelson will DH. Then Meadows in left, Candelario in at third, and Eric Haas doing the catching and batting ninth. Later in the inning, it's Cabrera taking this one hit well, but right at the second baseman, and that's going to do it for the Tigers in first. We go to the bottom of the first, and we'll get our first look at Eduardo Rodriguez in a Tigers uniform. First batter, Adam Frazier, routine ground ball to short, and it's 2 pitches, 1 out, and now we'll get a chance to take a look at the Seattle lineup in this one. As Frazier leading off is going to play second base, then J.P. Crawford completes the duo up the middle, then Winker, Haniger, and France in the middle. Tom Murphy batting sixth, Kyle Lewis, former Rookie of the Year, batting seventh, and then I believe it was Rodriguez batting ninth. I can't even remember who was eighth, but no big deal. Nice play here from Cabrera as he makes the sliding stop there, flips to the bag, and it's scoreless after 1. Now, Javi Baez in his first at bat as a Tiger can't connect on that inside fastball. He's down on strikes for the first out of the inning. Next batter, Jonathan Scope, goes up and gets one on a 1-1 pitch, takes it up the middle for a base hit. And that is the first base runner of the season as Scope is on with a 1-out single. Next batter, Spencer Corkelson, 0-2 pitch. He goes up and takes this one up the middle for another base hit. His first of his major league season or career, and surely not going to be the last, but a great start for the young slugger, as he is going to reach and batting 1,000 for the career. We'll get that ball and stick it on the mantle. Next batter, Austin Meadows. Can't connect on the high fastball. He's down on strikes. Now 2 outs, and he brings up Jeimer Candelario. He's going to watch a 3-0 curve miss well outside. That'll load the bases for Eric Haas with 2 away in the inning. And Ray, that pitch count getting up there, but he is going to get Haas swinging to end the threat He escapes danger there, strikes out the side, but the Tigers were definitely threatening, and now we go to the bottom of the second. Eduardo Rodriguez back to work, but on a 3-2 pitch, gets too much of the plate here. Haniger rips this one. It gets all the way to the wall in right field, and he's into second with a leadoff double. So a chance here for Seattle, but now with one away in the inning, nice change up there as he gets Tom Murphy swinging for the second out. Just 18 pitches at that point, but then a nice at-bat here from Suarez ends as he swings through an inside fastball down on strikes to end the threat there. Now we go on to the top of the third, and Ray racks up another strikeout as that's 4 batters retired by K in a row. And now 2 outs in the inning for Corkelson. He's down on a back foot slider. Nice pitch there. And that's going to be the end of the Tigers' chances there in the bottom of, or the top of the fourth. Now on to the bottom of the fourth, one away. It's Haniger, this time through the left side into center field. And that is going to give him a base runner with one away. Now next batter on a 0-1 pitch. It's a changeup that is a disaster of location. Leaves it up. France goes with it, takes it over the right field wall, and the Mariners lead 2-0 here early on the 2-run job. First of the year for France, and the Mariners strike first. Later in the inning, runner on second, it's Suarez down on strikes again. And it's going to be a 2-run lead after the inning as Rodriguez able to bounce back after the home run, but the Tigers now playing from behind, and we'll see if they can get anything going in their half of the fifth. There's Austin Meadows trying to check his swing, but could not hold back. He's down on strikes. Now, next batter is Jeimer Candelario. That ball is going into the gap as he hit that extremely hard. It's going to bounce over the wall for a ground rule double. So a chance for the Tigers, and it's Eric Haas. This time, with a runner in scoring position, he's going shopping at the gap. That ball is going to go all the way to the wall, and he will trade places with Candelario and make it 2-1. And the Tigers are on the board. The lead cuts in half. It is 2-1 here, 1 out, and still a runner in scoring position, but he would be stranded with 1 out in the bottom of the fifth. It's Adam Frazier down the left field line, off the bag, and into left field for a 1-out single. Next batter hits it hard, but right at scope, and that's going to be a 4-6. Nope, he throws it into the dugout. Should have ended the inning, but instead it's going to be a runner on second with 2 outs and an opportunity for the Mariners to capitalize here if they can come up with a 2-out single to get that run home. And it's Jesse Winker down the right field line. Looked like Grossman could make the catch, but he is unable to get there. That ball goes to the corner, and it's going to be a 2-out RBI double to get that lead back to 2. And that one looked like it could have been caught, so some sketchy defense, and now it's a 2-run game again. But to go out to the top of the sixth, it's going to be Javi Baez drawing a walk, so he makes the error. Now he's going to hopefully get things going for the Tigers on offense, and he's on the run. He's into second with a stolen base, and now a runner in scoring position with nobody out. Now 2 outs in the inning, and it's Austin Meadows coming through on a fastball right over the heart of the plate. Squares it up, sends it to the gap, and it's an RBI double, makes it 3-2. The lead is back down to 1. The Tigers are not going away easily. And now we move forward to the 7th. It's Michael, or actually bottom of the 6th now. Michael Fulmer coming on in relief. He was pretty sharp for the Tigers last year. Like to see that whip come down a little bit, but this is a guy that has really good stuff, but is more of a pitch-to-contact guy. It's kind of an oxymoron. But nonetheless, he's going to get a strikeout here. It's Murphy going down on strikes yet again, and now later in the ball game, here comes Drew Steckenrider for the Mariners, as he's coming on trying to hold the lead for the Mariners here in the 7th. It's going to be a runner on first here. The ball in the dirt. Murphy blocks it, but then tries to throw behind Eric Haas, throws it into right field. Haas is going to advance to second. And now an opportunity here with a runner in scoring position, nobody out. Andres Munoz now going to come on in relief, as he has had very little action last year, just 2 batters faced, or actually 2/3 of an inning. Gave up a couple of hits. And now his first appearance of the 2022 season, not going well here as that ball is into center field, and we are tied at 3 on a 2-out single there. And still first and second, 2 down. Javi Baez coming through there, making up for that error earlier. He would get out of the inning, but now we go to the bottom of the 7th. Fulmer staying out there, but the first batter takes it into center field, and it's going to be a leadoff double. And now Tigers in trouble yet again. That's the rookie Rodriguez with his first major league hit. And it's a big one as it gives the Mariners a chance to maybe grab the lead here late in the ball game. Andrew Chafin going to come on. He was absolutely sensational last year. They're going to need him to be sharp here. The first batter he faces is Adam Frazier. 0-2 slider, gets too much of the plate, and he hits it hard the other way through into left field, and now first and third, nobody out. And J.P. Crawford comes up. He bunts, and Scope was breaking for first, even though Cabrera was there to cover. A safety squeeze works. Not only do they score the run, but they don't even give up the out in the process. Now first and second, nobody out. Chafin would get out of that jam, and now we go to the top of the eighth with a runner on first. It's Corkelson coming all the way around to score on the RBI double from Meadows, as he has swung the bat well today, and now a couple of RBIs, and that one's a big one as Diego Castillo, a blown save, and then the game is now tied, and he's not done yet. He's still out there, 34 pitches in the inning, and that's going to be Victor Reyes dropping one into right center field, and the run comes in to score. Now 5-4 the Tigers with their first lead of the game here in the eighth inning. Now we fast forward to the ninth after the Mariners were held scoreless there. Gregory Soto coming on trying to get his first save. They got him one of the outs, and then for the second out of the inning, he strikes out the rookie Rodriguez for out number 2, and then Adam Frazier on a 2-2 pitch. It's a sinker down and away that he is just frozen on, and that will do it. The Tigers, a come-from-behind victory to pick up win number 1 on the season, and 5-4 is your final. Andrew Chafin ends up picking up the win in this one, although he didn't actually even really pitch that well, but he does get the victory. Austin Meadows, player of the game honors. The Tigers racking up 13 hits and 4 walks, 9 strikeouts on the day. A bunch of 2-hit guys up and down the lineup. Miguel Cabrera 0 for 5 on the afternoon. They got doubles from Candelario, Haas, and then 2 from Austin Meadows, who also had 2 RBIs, coincidentally. Baez, Reyes, Haas, and Meadows accounting for all those RBIs. Baez with an error, but then also stole a base. Rodriguez pitched pretty well, 5 innings, 6 hits, a walk, 3 earned, although one of them was because of that sketchy defense back in the 5th inning. Fulmer did okay. Chafin comes in, gave up a couple of hits, and gets the win. Cisnero, the hold in the 8th, he pitched very well in this one, and then Soto closing it out for his first save of the year, striking out the only 2 batters that he faced. Now we'll take a look at the Mariners box score here as they end up with 9 hits, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, including 3 from Murphy and Suarez, both of them with pretty rough days. They got the home run from France that was the highlight of the day for them. It was a 2-run shot back in the 4th inning. Doubles from Haniger, Winker, and Rodriguez. Haniger really swung the bat well in this one with a couple of hits. Murphy had the throwing error. Robbie Ray pitched very well, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 walks. 2 earned and struck out 6 over that stretch. Steckenrider was not very sharp. Munoz gets a blown save, and then Castillo, blown save and a loss as they fall in this one. Misiewicz came in, did not pitch very well either. And the Tigers take this one 5-4.
So that'll do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment below, and we will see y'all next time.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?